Hello everyone and welcome to the new video, and as you probably know by now, today I will be talking about the return of Conor McGregor. The former UFC lightweight champion is currently on his road to recovery, and at this rate there are chances that the former champ will return to action by summer 2022. So without any further ado, welcome back to Helio Sports and let's get right into this video. So as we know, Conor McGregor broke his leg in the third fight against Dustin Poirier not too long ago. But of course, he has been recovering quite well. If you follow him on social media, you probably have an idea on how well McGregor has recovered so far in a short period of time. And McGregor recently took to Twitter and did a Q&A, and the former champ expects himself to be back into full mixed martial arts sparring by April 2022. So basically he tweeted out saying that I will be in full mixed martial arts sparring by April easily. By then, a return will be imminent, but I must be patient and I will beat this. So as you can see, Conor McGregor expects himself to be back in sparring by April, and given how quickly he recovered from a broken leg, I think it's fair to say that McGregor will be back in action and will be stepping back into the octagon by June or July. Now, the question is, who could Conor McGregor face once he gets the green light to compete again? Now, you see, Conor McGregor has plenty of options lined up ahead of himself. I mean, it's McGregor we're talking about. Of course, he has options lined up ahead of himself. Regardless of what you think of this man, McGregor is still the biggest star in the UFC today, and he is still regarded as the biggest draw in the company. And if you look into it, there are plenty of fighters out there who are willing to throw their name into the hat for a fight against Conor, considering the big paycheck that comes along. Now, what are the options for McGregor for his return fight in 2022? Firstly, I think it's fair to say that fans have called for a fight between Tony Ferguson and Conor McGregor. Now, the one small issue I have with this fight is that this fight probably won't be that much of a scrap as it would have been 5 years ago. I mean, if you go back to 2016, this fight would have been an absolutely incredible to watch because Conor McGregor was in his peak at lightweight and he had just won the lightweight title that year as well in November. And the following year, you had Tony Ferguson beat Kevin Lee for the interim belt, and then he immediately called out Conor McGregor as well. And I mean, that right there was probably the best timeline for the UFC's lightweight division, with Conor, Tony, and Khabib being at the top of the division at the time. But like I said, this McGregor versus Ferguson fight would have been a banger. Would have been a banger if it occurred 5 years ago. And right now, personally, I don't think Dana White himself is a big fan of Conor versus Ferguson, so I just don't see this fight happening at all. So the other option here is obviously the one that will always be on the table for Conor, and by that I mean the trilogy against Nate Diaz. And during McGregor's recent Q&A on Twitter, he clearly mentioned that there are high chances of him facing Diaz at some point once again down the road. So of course, McGregor himself isn't ruling out this third fight against Nate, and I'm sure the fans are more attracted towards this fight than they are towards the potential Ferguson versus McGregor fight instead. However, much like every other fight, the third McGregor versus Diaz fight itself has a lot of complications surrounding it. First of all, by now we already know that Nate Diaz is in his last fight in his current UFC contract, and Diaz has also hinted that he would like to face Vicente Luque, but I'm not sure if the UFC is too keen on booking that fight. I mean, um, of course, Luque himself has made it clear that he would like to face Diaz, but looking at it from the UFC's perspective, why would the UFC want to risk a potential title contender for Kamaru Usman against a non-ranked Nate Diaz? I mean, many people would say that the UFC recently did this with Leon Edwards when he fought Diaz at UFC 263. But here's the thing: before that fight, Edwards was inactive, and he had to fight someone. He had that no contest against Bilal, and he eventually got himself drawn against the biggest possible name in Diaz. So looking at it, it was a win-win situation for both parties. For Nate, I think he needs to go for the bigger fight here, which is obviously the McGregor fight. And if it turns out to be his final fight in the UFC somehow, it will be a great way to, close out the biggest chapter of his career so far. But yeah, getting back on track, Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor is definitely the fight to make right now. I mean, it's already been 5 years since they last fought each other, and you cannot delay this trilogy any further. And I think this should be the fight that needs to be booked somehow by 2022. Given how the entire Nate Diaz contract situation plays out, we'll have to see if the UFC is going to offer him a new deal or not. I mean, that would be stupid not to offer him a new contract, but I mean, it's one of the Diaz brothers after all. So, Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor 3, 2022, definitely in Las Vegas. That's the fight to make right there. However, there is one other problem we have. Nate Diaz wants to fight at welterweight, and I do not see him going down at lightweight. Even though, if you remember, after Conor McGregor won the rematch against Diaz in 2016, he said that the third fight needs to happen in lightweight in the post fight octagon interview.
I learned from the last contest. This was an incredibly close and incredibly entertaining fight, a true dog fight, Conor. Congratulations on winning this rematch. Thank you so much. All I know is it's 1-1. Regroup, boy, we'll do it again. This time at 155 pounds. I came up to 170, faced the bigger man, overcame my adversity. Now you want this trilogy? It's on my terms. Come back down to 155, we'll do it.
But that was a long time ago, and knowing Conor McGregor, I think it's safe to say that he will agree to fight at welterweight eventually. But the whole point of this is, of course, that the sooner this fight happens, the better. The UFC cannot let this huge trilogy get out of hand, and this fight needs to happen possibly by next year. And hopefully, we see McGregor and Diaz share the octagon for the third time. So, the other logical option available for Conor McGregor here is obviously the fight against Michael Chandler. Chandler, of course, he's on the back of an insane fight against Justin Gaethje and has gone on to say some incredibly nice things about McGregor recently. Now, the question here is, will Conor McGregor take Michael Chandler's bait? If you look at it this way, Michael Chandler came into the UFC and his last two fights were insane. But he lost both those fights, so you cannot blame Chandler here for going after the money fight and what financially is still the biggest fight at lightweight. And honestly, I do think there is a solid chance of McGregor versus Chandler happening next year. So here is how I would imagine things will play out in lightweight in 2022. You have the winner of Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier. You have those two fighting for the belt in December. Then either one of them goes on to defend the belt against Justin Gaethje. The winner of that faces the winner of Islam Makhachev versus Benil Dariush. The winner of that, I would expect, will face the winner of Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler if that fight ever happens next summer. Now, the timing of everything will be really perfect in this scenario. You have Oliveira versus Poirier in December. The winner faces Gaethje probably in March. Then the winner of that defends the belt one more time against either Islam or Benil to close out the year. And with Conor returning in summer, you can have the winner of McGregor and Chandler. You can have either McGregor or Chandler fight for the belt in 2023. So yeah, there you have it. The lightweight division is really, really exciting right now. And you have so many exciting fights that could possibly play out from this scenario. You could have the rematch between Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje. You could have Justin Gaethje face current champion Charles Oliveira. We know Justin doesn't isn't a big fan of Charles. He has said some mean things about Oliveira in the past. But the one fight that I would be really, really interested to look forward to if it ever happens from this current scenario is the one between Justin Gaethje and Islam Makhachev. Gaethje and Makhachev both are managed by Ali Abdelaziz, and they have went back and forth on Twitter recently. Khabib came in and he also mentioned that Islam deserves to fight for the belt. Of course, he's rooting for his boy. And then you have Justin Gaethje, who came in defense of Tony Ferguson after Khabib went after Tony on Twitter. I mean, we still don't know if it's Khabib or Ali running the Twitter account. But then again, it's really cool to see. It was really cool to see Justin Gaethje come in defense of Tony Ferguson, and then pretty much made it clear that he is the one who should be fighting for the belt. And honestly, yes, I do think Justin Gaethje deserves this title shot. And yeah, so yeah, like I said, the lightweight division is obviously looking really interesting right now, and it will be also interesting to see how things play out in 2022 and in 2023. Let me know who you think Conor McGregor should fight next once he's fit to return. Should he fight Michael Chandler? Should he go for the trilogy against Nate Diaz, or will he get a direct title shot against the given who wins between Charles Oliveira and Dustin Poirier. I mean, there is still a possibility that if Dustin wins the belt, UFC could book Conor versus Dustin for the lightweight title, which I think would be really unfair at this point because you have the likes of Justin Gaethje and all those names I mentioned who could fight for the belt in the future and are ahead of Conor, obviously, in terms of rankings. So yeah, that was it for this video. Drop a like, drop a dislike, whatever you feel like. Feel free to engage. We have an audience of 3K finally. Thank you for everyone who's subscribed to the channel. And yeah, that was it from me. I'll see you in the next one.